Hey, Lord Immolation, thanks for the reply. I am by the ocean, but it's raining a little outside, so I can't go outside with the computer. It sucks. See, probably won't look good in the filter, but it's a little coast. Yeah, the thing is, okay, so what is the deal? A priori truths, the law of identity. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, okay, when I ascribe something to you, like saying that you believe in a platonic heaven, I might misspeak. It's hard to do this sometimes, but I mean, sometimes I'm taking something someone believes and I'm saying, hey, this leads to this other belief, and sometimes they're like, yeah, I believe that too. But this wasn't really a case where I would expect that. I would expect that you don't support the platonic heaven. I'm just trying to establish that they're connected. Plato did correctly think that the idea of a priori pure truths meant there had to be a place for those to exist, okay? Now, I'll get back into that in a second, but before we do that, you used the law of identity, A equals A, and you say it can't be tested. But the law of identity can be tested, right? What is A? A is a variable. What is a variable? A variable is a symbol that can represent anything. So I could test it by taking anything. Here's a flashlight. And saying, is a flashlight. A equals flashlight. And then checking in the real world. Does A equal A? And what do I find? Well, no, it doesn't. Because by the time I start that sentence, A equals A, it's different than when I finish the sentence. If I set this down and come back tomorrow and I say, hey, look, the flashlight. This flashlight was set equal to this flashlight. Is it the same? And according to this strict, pure version of equals, no, it's not the same. It's changing. In the case of the river, you go down to the river, it's the river, you go down the next day and someone says, oh, look, it's not actually the same river. It's all changed. But that's obvious. That's an obvious example, but it's the same with this, right? The molecules on this are in motion. Just me touching it. They've moved. Even if I don't touch it. It's radiating energy, absorbing energy. The parts that it's made up of, the mass and energy, constantly in flux, just like a river. And this is where the problem comes in and why I don't believe in metaphysics. Because, see, a belief in metaphysics makes us think, oh, the river failed. We went down to the river. It failed to be the same. It failed to maintain its identity somehow. But wasn't really what we were doing down there. We'd already recognized the river. It already had similarities. The river yesterday and the river tomorrow. Similarities for me. I can get water there and fish and so on and so forth. Okay, so I already identified it. And we were asking, what is the nature of that identification? What is it about the river that I could possibly identify? What am I recognizing when I identify it? And you come up with the law of identity and say, oh, actually it doesn't have identity. No, it has identity. What's failed is not the river did not fail your criterion of identity, per se. It did, but what that means is your criterion of identity has the flaw. It is possible to make a definition of identity such that flashlight is the same flashlight. And what you have to be identifying is the system that is that flashlight. And then you have to make a definition of identity that then says that if there's a causal relationship between one system and another system, in other words, the one system evolved into another, then it's the same system, or at least possible it's the same system. You can analyze things like, well, does it have the same energy, or is it transferring energy? Is this new energy or energy that's a remnant from some past experience? But in any case, if there's this causal link, that's where you get the identity out. So you can test something like the law of identity. When you make it metaphysical and you personally put it beyond testability, you're just doing yourself a disservice, because you need a new concept of identity. You need a new concept of cause and effect as time goes on and we get better and better, more subtle understandings. Otherwise, we're just really going to be taking, some mental bias that we have from evolutionary biology. Now, the other thing, as far as this world of forms, again, let's use A equals A. Now, if that's a priori, then it's not referring to anything in the world or universe. In other words, A equals A, if it's a priori, is true even if the universe was never created. But what was A again? What did A mean? It was a variable. What is a variable? It can be anything. So you're saying that A equals A, which requires existence of a concept of things, right? It's referring to things. Variables refer to things. And yet there's not even any universe, right? The universe never blew up. This is pure reason. No universe, no material, no information. And so there's no universe, but there's this truth anyway that has the ability just to be true anyway. So there's these reference of things. This, without the universe existing, A equals A is true, then there has to be things for it to be true about. And where do those things reside? Where do they reside? You know, this is a problem of pure reason, because people are doing pure reason and really they have these ideas and they just sit there. Well, they reside in their material brain. As soon as you start saying, but what if I was thinking without a brain? Well, obviously, if you're thinking without a brain, you're not thinking. You're not doing anything. You know, you could remove all the biases of your brain, and what do you think then? Well, nothing, because you won't have a brain, because to build a brain requires certain biases and stresses be in a real material situation. So, any of these a priori truths are going to have definitions that refer to something that is substantial, because in reality all of the math actually ends up referring back to things from the material world. You know, does 4 equal 4? I mean, even that could be tested. No, we know now, we don't need to waste our time testing it. But you can leave 4 things and come back and see if there's 4. And if there's 3, you can go, wait, does that mean 4 isn't 4? Did someone take one? You know, you can deduce all that down. It's all very old work, and we've done it. And it's stuff you can do, you know, scientifically just with the apparatus of a mind. You know, even any mammal probably could figure out some of these things. But it doesn't mean they can't be tested. It just means that the tests are so ubiquitous and every day. It's like we don't think we test the air for breathability all the time, right? But we do by taking a breath. You know, and if it turns out not to be breathable, we'll find that out. But we don't think of ourselves as doing the test. But anyway, any of these truisms are going to have reference to things that relate to the real world. And as soon as you pretend that they're metaphysical, you're going to have to explain what they're referring to then. In a pure reason space with no material objects, what does it mean to have a variable that can represent anything when there are no things? So yeah, that's the point. And that's why I'm saying you need a world populated of these pure abstract forms in order to believe that there can be pure abstract statements about them without any universe involved. So, cheers, and I hope that clarifies. Not that, really, I mean, a lot of the stuff I'll say is like I'm trying to convince you, but I am trying to give arguments. But mostly, I mean, I think the purpose is to clarify the differences and find out where the differences are. If it's how you order knowledge, what you think existence is, and this sort of thing. All right, cheers.